But anyway, Vermont Electric Co-op hired me because they were in bankruptcy, and I gave them 2 days a month. And Vermont Electric Co-op was quite fascinating. It's one of these places that I fell in love with. When I first walked in, because they were in bankruptcy so long, I said, wow, this is the most technologically backwards company I'd ever walked into. So that was my initial reaction. But then as I realized these employees were running this company, these employees loved the company to the point where it almost appeared like you didn't need a CEO. And so when I had the opportunity to become CEO or leader, I realized I started to learn about the cooperative model. So I took over leadership of the company in 2005. Company was still on the edge of bankruptcy. State was still quite mad at it, ready to pull its certificate of public good. We had the highest number of outages in the state. We were the most expensive in terms of rates. So when I took over, first I'll say I pulled the employees together, and again I had great faith in these employees. I said, look, I have a ton of business experience, but I only give myself a 10% chance of success. But if we work together, we can be successful. And I also said, I'm going to tell you that we're all going to abide by the union rules. It was a union company. So whatever raise you get, I get. I will get, every person in here will abide by the union contract, because I knew that's what shoulder to shoulder is. Mm-hmm. An amazing thing happened. In about, that was 2005. In 2010, I was invited down to the Department of Energy. I thought I was only meeting with 2 people. I come into this room, there's 25 people, all heads of different parts of the Department of Energy. They told us we were the most innovative utility in the nation. And oh, by the way, from a rating agency standpoint, and I say this, I know there's a little bit in the weeds, but real important. We went from a BBB- with a negative outlook to an A+ rating with a rating agency, which is, financial people will tell you that's impossible.
Christine, can you explain for people who aren't familiar who's rating what?
Yeah. So what companies? So our Cooperative was rated by the same rating agencies that rates all businesses across the world. They're called rating agencies, and they assign you a financial rating based on how stable and how good your business is. So the BBB- with a negative outlook is what's called just above junk bond status. Mm-hmm. You might as well be out of business if you drop below BBB- with a negative outlook. That's where we started. A+ is an outstanding rating. And that directly relates to your borrowing power. And we'll talk a little bit about this later, because if you look at co-ops are a great model for investing in infrastructure. But an important part of co-op is to make sure you have solid financials so you can get the capital you need to build. And we'll talk more about that later. So anyway, that I will tell you my experience in the electric cooperative. I fell in love with the cooperative model. I was working with for-profit businesses all along. But let me tell you why I'm just absolutely in love with the cooperative model. Is because a co-op is a democracy. In the case of our electric co-op, if you're a member, you have a vote, and you elect your board of directors. And we had 7 districts, pretty equally numbered, and we had 7 district leaders and 5 at-large members, and they would elect these board members. The board members' job was to carry out the will of the members, and I worked for the board. And our very good board policies. Point being, the board has one employee; it's the CEO, and we run the monthly meeting is really important. I joke because you should also know I did a ton of work nationally, and there's the electric cooperatives serve 56% of the land mass of this country. There's close to 1,000 of them, and I had a national role, and I worked with a lot of CEOs. But we had this joke in the cooperative world. It's the only place where you want a leader who's got 30 years experience, but they only get a 30-day contract. You probably know what that means. That means you're going from board meeting to board meeting to board meeting to board meeting. And it's really, I think it's a great, it really screams with accountability as a leader, because it doesn't matter what you did last month, it's what are you doing this month and what's our future look like.
Can I ask you more about that?
Yeah.
So a private, either a publicly owned you know, a business that's publicly traded, or a lot of private businesses also have boards, right? And they also may have monthly meetings or quarterly meetings. So what's the difference?
Oh, let me tell you, thank you for asking that question. There's a big difference here because our board, it's a non-professional board. It's elected from the membership. I call it a highly functioning democracy. And the board members everybody in the organization is focused on what does the member want. And in something like the electric utility, which is a big infrastructure business, we get the opportunity to look out 30 years and make our investments. In a for-profit world, is quarterly focus. So the point is, you're making this 30-year plan, and you're making sure each month that it's all working.